So today I am going to break down the recent updates in the Epstein case along with my assistant. She's been working so hard. Gotta give her a lot of props. We're going to be breaking down the most recent developments in the Epstein case, but the most important thing to know is that the vote on the Epstein files in the House is going to be happening tomorrow, Tuesday. And this vote is being forced by the discharge petition. The 218th signatory for the discharge petition, the congressperson who was elected in Arizona after the special election, she signed her name. So the discharge petition bypasses the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who has been railroading this vote for so long. And we can speculate on what those reasons are. Is he compromised or is he a pedophile himself? TBD. And it's pretty certain that this was one of the main reasons why the federal government was kept in shutdown for the longest shutdown ever of 43 days. And in doing this, they were delaying the swearing in of the 218th signatory. There was a special election in Arizona, and that congressperson had already stated her intention to sign on to Massey's discharge petition. So in these 43 days, the four Republicans, especially the three Republican women that stated their intent, that signed onto the discharge petition, were being pressured to remove their names.
CNN's cameras spotted the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, actually leaving the White House after that meeting between top officials that included her and the FBI director and Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. It was the culmination of an ultimately unsuccessful effort to get Boebert and Congresswoman Nancy Mace to change their votes when it came to a discharge petition here on Capitol Hill to release the files that the DOJ has on Jeffrey Epstein.
They hoped that within that time, if they got even one person to remove their names, by the time the swearing in of the congressperson from Arizona happened, then Thomas Massie wouldn't have those 218 signatures anymore. And when we say Epstein files, there's already been so much that has been released, but the federal government has even more because Epstein was an intelligence asset.
Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset to Israel and to the United States. And so, and even if he's not, there is a CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein that I want to see. I asked Kash Patel, has he seen it? And he didn't know if it existed. And I said, well, wouldn't you be interested in asking for that? Like, that's one of the things you're allowed to see is the CIA file on Jeffrey Epstein. Like, you're suspiciously uncurious about that.
He is a Republican who's not signing on to the bottomless pit of American tax dollars going to support the apartheid regime of Israel. And this is the reason why Thomas Massie is facing a multi-million-dollar campaign to unseat him.
They're trying to beat me here in Kentucky, but here's what's interesting. The people financing this campaign consist completely of three billionaires, and they're all in the Epstein class. In fact, one of them is named in Epstein's phone book, not the secret files that the FBI is keeping, but in Epstein's phone book. So it's a small world. Dogs don't bark at parked cars, and we are winning. I'm not tired of winning yet, but we're winning. And not only the speaker, but the attorney general, the FBI director, and the president himself and the vice president, they're taking a big loss this week because after months of fighting, I am winning this week with Ro Khanna. We're forcing this vote, and it's going to happen. I would remind my Republican colleagues who are deciding how to vote, Donald Trump can protect you in red districts right now by giving you an endorsement. But in 2030, he's not going to be the president, and you will have voted to protect pedophiles if you don't vote to release these files, and the president can't protect you then. This vote, the record of this vote, will last longer than Donald Trump's presidency.
Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna came together in an act of bipartisanship to work on the Epstein case and work for justice for the victims. The liberal media loves this story, of course, because it's making Donald Trump look bad. They don't have Biden in the presidency at this time. But the thing that they're missing, that they're not speaking about, is Epstein's relationship to Israel, as well as him being an intelligence asset. But this is exactly the point that needs to be made. And it's indicative of how the United States and Israel maintain their dominance in our political structures and globally is through the use of sexual blackmail. And if you haven't read Whitney Webb's books, there's volume 1 and volume 2. I recommend them. They're very dense. One of the best uses that I use this book for now is she has an index like of all these names. So if you ever see anyone who's in the news or press kind of regarding any of this, or just anyone really like making the media rounds, you can look up and see like if, you know, see their connections to this like Epstein slop. So I love that Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna are coming together, as well as Marjorie Taylor Greene and the like, because I think most people are done and tired of the red team, blue team bullshit. They want us to hate each other and forget the crimes that they're getting away with and they're doing. So this is a really beautiful illustration of moving beyond that. Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene actually both have signs on their doors on Capitol Hill that they don't accept foreign funding and they don't allow foreign agents in their office. It's pretty telling that there's only 2 congresspeople out of our entire Congress that have made this a priority. When you go on Capitol Hill and walk those halls, those congressional halls, almost every other office, there is either a Israel flag, an Israel sign, like I stand with Israel. They stand out in that regard, that they're not accepting foreign money. Donald Trump and his associates and this whole class is saying that it's a hoax. If it was a hoax, then why are you giving this much weight and attention to it? Why are you bringing in Republican congresswomen to the Situation Room at the White House to pressure them, probably blackmail them into taking their name off the discharge petition? If it was a hoax, why wouldn't you just release whatever you have and call it a day? Because if it was a hoax, there wouldn't be anything there, right? At this point, I have so much respect for Thomas Massie and also Marjorie Taylor Greene and these 2 other Republican women who have, like, regardless of whether I agree with them on everything, and I don't have to. And it's funny to me that we always have to, like, qualify that. I don't have to agree with everyone to listen to what they say and learn from them. This is how they want us to be. They want us to completely write off the other side or our enemy. So we don't talk to each other. So we don't learn from each other. So we don't work together to actually realize who our real enemies are. The more that I listen to someone like Thomas Massie, who's brilliant, he went to MIT actually, and he's one of the only politicians that when you hear him speak on whatever show, whatever this, whatever that, he speaks like a real person. That when you ask him a question, he answers the question. He doesn't do all this like political maneuvering, however they teach them how to speak to avoid answering the question. So I think when you look at a politician or anyone in power, or just really anyone, and see how they speak about Israel, the apartheid state of Israel, and calling it what it is, and Epstein, and depending on their stance or their response, that tells you everything that you need to know about them. Most of these politicians are compromised. That's how they get into those positions. And a perfect example of the average politician in our country is someone like Brad Sherman, who was recently making the media rounds just the other day for being on a commercial airline and looking at sexually suggestive material on the commercial airline on his iPad. Brad Sherman is 71 years old. He's a perv and he's fucking stupid. So that pretty much is the description of the average US politician. Old, stupid, and disgusting. And that's how they like them, because then they are easily controlled and manipulated. That's why all of our politicians are old and stupid. Like, they're all compromised. Okay, so I thought it would be fun to play the game compromised or pedophile. And I have 3 guests that I'm going to bring to my show virtually. And we're going to look at their words and to try and assess like what might actually be happening here. And the first guest I would like to bring to the show is Megyn Kelly.
You feel as a victim. You feel a victim. To people who are going to be out there, because you know some are going to judge and say you were 15, you were 16, you were 17, you were a willing participant. Again, the legal age of consent in California is 18, so there's no consenting for a 14 or even a 17-year-old in these circumstances.
As for Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby. We have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10. I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. Look, you can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old. You know, it's just whatever.
How much her speech and her stance on pedophilia has changed in those short 7 years. I mean, the supporters of Epstein and Trump, they're just getting seedier and seedier. I mean, this is pretty disgusting. Essentially, Megyn Kelly is saying that she can excuse the rape of children if they're 15, but 8-year-olds, that's where she draws the line. Do we think Megyn Kelly is just compromised in whatever way? Or is she a pedophile herself? To be determined. The next guest that I would like to bring to the stage is Alan Dershowitz.
Before you went on, the predecessor on your show described Jeffrey Epstein as a convicted pedophile. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of having sex for money with a 17-year and 10-month-old person. That's not pedophile.
I think most people are familiar with who Alan Dershowitz is. Alan Dershowitz was one of the attorneys on the legal team that got Jeffrey Epstein the sweetheart deal in Florida. He got off with just a 13-month sentence in where he was able to leave the jail every day for 12 hours and go about his business, continuing to abuse and traffic and his same crimes. Alan Dershowitz was part of that case. So he's still defending Jeffrey Epstein. He is an ardent Zionist, defends the apartheid state of Israel and genocide denier. And Alan Dershowitz famously was the one who penned an article in the LA Times arguing that he thinks statutory rape is an outdated concept, that puberty is apparently arriving earlier, particularly among some ethnic groups. Based on the demographic criteria, the age of consent should be lowered. It certainly should not be as high as 17 or 16. Reasonable people can disagree over whether it should be as low as 15. 15 would seem like an appropriate compromise. Alan Dershowitz was given a platform by the LA Times in 1997 to pontificate at what age children should be available for legal sexual depravity by himself, possibly, and all of his friends. You might think that Alan Dershowitz, now he realizes he was wrong and wants to correct his stance. No, he stands by his stand. This tweet was in 2019, and he says he stands by the constitutional, not moral argument I offered in my controversial op-ed. If a 16-year-old has the constitutional right to have an abortion without state or parental interference, how could she not have the constitutional right to engage in consensual sex? I think it's really telling that this is the argument that Alan Dershowitz is making, that since 16-year-olds have the right to an abortion, this comes in handy for his friends if they are impregnating minors by raping them. And by the way, it's not sex. It's not sex with minors, it's raping minors. And the last guest that I would like to bring to my show, and I have to give this guy credit because Michael Tracy. Oh, we forgot to make we forgot to say whether we think Alan Dershowitz is compromised or a pedophile himself, or both.
Dershowitz did say he once received a massage at Epstein's mansion, but from an adult woman.
I kept my underwear on during the massage. I don't like massages particularly.
I think that what Alan Dershowitz is saying online and feels comfortable saying speaks very loudly about who he is, even though he famously denied even liking massages and whatever happened in and around Epstein, he kept his underwear on. I don't think anyone innocent would be talking like that, to be honest, but I can't say too much about Alan Dershowitz because we all know he's very litigious. But the final guest that I would like to bring to my show is Michael Tracy. And I have to give Michael Tracy credit for being the person that inspired me to learn more about the facts of this case. Even though I was a sexual assault examiner in the state of New York, and at that time when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, I had already been doing that for at least a year. I had never heard of Jeffrey Epstein or anything that was going on there. I learned about the Jeffrey Epstein case when most of the world learned about the Jeffrey Epstein case was when he was being arrested in New York in 2019. New York State and New York City knew about Jeffrey Epstein. He had to register as a sex offender. And this is something that I've spoken about in articles that I've written, as well as the previous video, that the New York District Attorney argued alongside his defense for leniency. He had to register as a sex offender regardless because the judge denied their request, but he was still given leniency. Even though this was going on for 8 years at that point, that there was a massive sex trafficking operation. I mean, there's multiple sex trafficking operations that are happening in New York, but this was probably the most high profile one. And how many minors and young women were victimized? I never heard about this case. Michael Tracy was the one that inspired me to learn more about the details, because Michael Tracy is the type of person that says a lot of shit online and throws a lot of details at you that make you think you don't know anything. He's literally defending Alan Dershowitz. Michael Tracy is defending Trump. He's defending Epstein still, and he thinks it's funny. I don't think that this is funny. Even if you aren't a pedophile yourself, Michael Tracy, this behavior is very suspicious. He says, Florida has the highest legal age of consent, 18, virtually anywhere in the world. If the Epstein massage shenanigans had taken place one state to the north, in Palm Beach, Georgia, or Palm Beach, Alabama, the entire legal trajectory would have been radically different. Just the fact that this is something that someone would feel comfortable putting onto the internet is crazy. But let's just take a look at who Michael Tracy is. This man still has a massive platform, and I actually first heard of him because he was some sort of correspondent with Glenn Greenwald. I don't think anyone making these arguments or writing tweets like this should have any credibility, actually. He's either compromised, a pedophile, himself or just doing all of this for attention. Like, he defends Alan Dershowitz, which tells you everything that you need to know about him. He made the argument that Alan Dershowitz this is a tweet that he did. Alan Dershowitz was vindicated recently after the chief Epstein victim finally admitted she made up defamatory lies about him for years. Just because Virginia Giuffre took back any of those claims, it doesn't mean that she was lying. It means that the Epstein victims and Virginia Giuffre were going up against the most powerful people in the fucking world. Alan Dershowitz is scary. He's very litigious, and these people have all the money and resources and power. Victims coming forward have nothing to gain from this. Who wants to be famous for being sex trafficked and sexually abused? I would stay the hell away from Michael Tracy. Anyone. What do we think? Is he compromised or is he a pedophile? Things are looking very suspicious, Michael Tracy. I think he already knows that. We can all see that Trump is very clearly being blackmailed by all of this. His name is in the Epstein files again and again. He had a close relationship with Epstein and all of these guys.
Mr. President, what did Jeffrey Epstein mean in his emails when he said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago. It's really, what did he mean when he spent all the time with Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why not acting as a...
Quiet, Biggie.
There's precedent for this. Actually, the only person that's serving any time for any of this is Jeffrey Epstein's right hand, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is intelligence herself. And she's currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking. Israel, I'm sure, want Ghislaine Maxwell out. I don't know if you guys know about the Jonathan Pollard case. So Jonathan Pollard was an American, and he found himself working for the Office of Naval Intelligence, and he was selling top secret information to the regime of Israel for 17 months before he was caught. I believe he was caught in 1985 and then sentenced to life in prison under the Espionage Act in 1987. He is a national hero in Israel. And this guy he's genocidal. Actually, Israel gave him Israeli citizenship in 1995, and then Netanyahu would come to the United States and lobby for his release. It is alleged that Monica Lewinsky was a honeypot operation for the sole purpose of blackmailing Bill Clinton to get Jonathan Pollard released from prison. So Israel had tapped all of their phone lines and knew about Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton, obviously. And Bill Clinton was being blackmailed for this. And it's said that Netanyahu came to actually, what is his real name? It's Milikowski. That's what I'm going to call him now. Milikowski came to Clinton and basically threatened him. Oh, we know everything. We deleted everything, but just know that we have everything. And we really want our guy out. Can you help us? So Bill Clinton tried to get Jonathan Pollard released, but the CIA director at the time said that he would resign if Bill Clinton commuted his sentence or pardoned him. So I think it would have been political suicide. Jonathan Pollard was given a life sentence, but he was granted, in that sentence, it was they can try for parole at 30 years. If they actually viewed this person as still a threat to national security, that president would not have granted him parole. Who granted him parole in 2015? It was Obama. He could have blocked that, but he didn't. And interestingly enough, Obama's legal counsel in the Obama administration are in the Epstein emails as well. And she's not like just a side character in all of this. Looking at these emails, she had a very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And she works for Goldman Sachs now, actually. And Goldman Sachs, a former Goldman Sachs executive, is the one who bought Jeffrey Epstein's NYC mansion for $51 million. What is it telling you? Like, they're all in the Epstein slop. Like, they're all at the same parties. They're all taking the same flights. Like, it's not red versus blue. It's us versus them. Actually, I found a clip of Alan Dershowitz defending Jonathan Pollard.
Jonathan Pollard was caught spying for Israel 27 or so years ago, and he made a plea bargain. He foolishly hired a Lebanese lawyer, thinking that would give them an advantage, and the lawyer was not particularly an able lawyer and didn't do a particularly good job. He made a plea bargain, and the plea bargain was in exchange for Pollard not defending himself, not invoking gray mail, and cooperating fully on making sure American intelligence sources were completely protected. In exchange for that, the promise was he would not get life imprisonment.
I mean, the way that they try to make it out in the media now is that Jonathan Pollard did not receive special treatment, and that was just the end of his sentence. I'm not saying that Obama was being blackmailed or anything like that. I don't think that there's any proof of that. But it didn't have to be the end of his sentence. It's pretty sus that his counsel, like chief counsel, is like buddy with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, what's that about? People like Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney denying the release of Jonathan Pollard, the fact that Obama would then turn around and grant him parole, like that's pretty sus to me. So full circle in all of this, and this probably isn't the only reason, but it's, I think, a pretty big reason, the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is an intelligence asset sitting in prison and going off the precedent of how they treated Jonathan Pollard, how all of these heads were being blackmailed for his release. Trump could be being blackmailed. I mean, he's being blackmailed for a lot of things. He's probably being blackmailed for war with Iran over Lebanon, engaging in an illegal war and attempted invasion of Venezuela, as well as the release of Ghislaine Maxwell, among other things. And Trump is doing everything in his power to keep Ghislaine Maxwell as happy as possible. She's said to be given unlimited toilet paper and a puppy. She's getting special treatment. They want more. They want her released. So that's at least my update about the Epstein case. I think what we can take from all of this and the three guests that we spoke about today is they are trying to make pedophilia palatable to us more than they have already attempted to make pedophilia palatable to us through Hollywood, that the Zionists control, through controlling the courts. This is why they want to control the judges, the district attorneys, the police departments. That, along with the media, is making pedophilia, they're literally making it not a crime, and they are and have been priming the American public, as well as globally, to accept pedophilia as normal. They want to make it palatable to us. Someone like Alan Dershowitz wants this to be palatable to us because this is the kind of behavior the kind of mentality and behavior that they deem as normal and appropriate. It's not. So if you made it this far, thank you. I'm still trying to figure out how to best structure this channel. I don't think that I will do much. I don't think most of the videos that I do will kind of be breaking down things like this. This is really hard, by the way, to be able to talk for this long about such a long case. I give a lot of respect to these live streamers who can do this, especially someone like Candace Owens, she's been doing it for a long time, but she's like a professional. I'm exhausted. But thank you for being here and stay tuned.